Hi everyone, we are in DCS World F-16C Viper, and in the final part of this tutorial, we are going to look towards the left-hand side of the cockpit. So let's get started. Towards left rear, we have the test switch panel. The first white button checks the serviceability of the fire and overheat detection systems and the lights. Then is the onboard oxygen generation system test. Next to that, this white button checks the serviceability of all malfunction and indication lights in the cockpit, along with the voice messages. The second row, left side, is used. The first switch is used to test the serviceability of the probe heat. The middle switch tests the serviceability of the emergency power unit without actually triggering it on ground. The flex power lights check tells us about the serviceability of the 4 flex branches of the flight control system branches. The next panel is the flight control panel. The first switch on the left is to turn on and off the backup mode of the flight control system. The next switch is used to extend the trailing edge flaps or normal position for their automatic sequence. The bottommost row towards the left side, we have the leading edge flaps to the lock position and for their auto operation as per the flight control system logic. The next switch is used to reset the flight control system if any fault is being detected. The next switch on the right is to perform the self built-in test of the flight control system. Below that, we have the manual trim panel. The switch Trim AP Disconnect in NORM energizes the electrical trimmer and turns on the autopilot as per the pilot discretion. Putting it to disconnect, the autopilot cannot be engaged and the electrical trim switch will stop functioning. The aircraft can be trimmed only by the manual knobs located on this panel. Moving ahead, we have the fuel control panel. Guarded red is the fuel master with default position towards on. If you lift the guard and move it to off position, all fuel supply to the engine will be terminated and engine will flame out. The tank inner tank position can be used to depressurize the external fuel tanks in case of any combat damage. Next is the engine feed knob. In the off position, fuel supplied to the engine will be stopped. In the normal position, fuel is supplied to the engine to keep the center of gravity within limits. The aft position is used to feed the fuel to the engine from the aft group tanks and similarly from the forward group tanks in the forward position. The air fuel switch can be used to open and close the air fuel receptacle, door and the associated lights. Below that is the IFF panel. The master knob to turn off the IFF, to put it to standby mode, low mode, normal mode and the emergency mode. Below that we have the lighting panel. The first knob towards the left turns on the anti-collision. 1 means 1 blink per second, 2 means 2 times per second, similarly 3, 4. Alpha Bravo Charlie can be programmed as per the flight or the pilot discretion. Next to that is to keep the position lights flashing or steady on. Then we have the brightness control for the fuselage and wingtail lights. The bright position keeps them to maximum brightness, off and similarly to dim. Towards the left bottom, the wrist rheostat controls the intensity of the formation lights, and towards the right, this rheostat controls the intensity of the air refueling light. In the middle, we have the master control for these lights. The normal position is at 3 o'clock, the off position is at 9 o'clock. The covert positions of all anti-collision and formation lights turn these lights to night vision goggle capability to be seen only under the goggles. Moving ahead, we have the electrical control panel. The main power switch is the default position in startup, in which the generators are powering the electrical system of the aircraft through the inverters. The battery position in case the generator is unserviceable, and the off position to turn off all the electrical supply to the aircraft. Towards the left, we have the emergency power unit control. This guarded red switch can be used to turn on the EPU or the emergency power unit, to turn it manually off, and the normal position is the default position where EPU will be triggered on as per the situations. For example, in case of a main generator failure or in case of a hydraulic system A failure, engine flame out, and etc. This green light in front of it will come steady on once the EPU has achieved the governed speed. Moving ahead, we have the engine control selection, this red switch, the primary mode for the primary engine control, and the sec position for the secondary engine control. Below that, there is a switch to reset the afterburner of any faults, the normal as a default position, and engine data can be used to store any diagnostic data. Towards its right side, we have the Audio 1 and Audio 2 control panel. Let's go through Audio 1 first. The two rheostats onto the top left are used to increase and decrease the volume of COM1 and COM2. Similarly, for the secure voice, then the muzzle tone. Below that is for the squelch operation, and towards the right bottom, we have the train following volume control and for the volume control of the threat warning system. Below that is the Audio 2 control panel to control the volume for the intercom, TACAN, instrument landing system, and for the hot mic operation. Below that, we have the ECM panel to control the operation of ALQ184. A detailed tutorial onto the ALQ184 operation will be available in a few days. Moving forward, we have the jet fuel selection, the Start 1, Off, and Start 2 position. The Start 1 utilizes single accumulator for engine start. Start 2 utilizes both accumulators for engine start, thus increasing the probability of startup, and that's why it is the recommended position. Towards right, we have the UHF radio, and towards the left again, top, we have the manual pitch. This switch is spring-loaded to normal position and can be held at the override. The override position is used for in case of any deep stall or uncontrolled flight situation when the automatic recovery is unsuccessful. This disengages the pitch limiter of the aircraft and provides additional pitch authority for manual recovery. On top of it, we have the threat warning control panel to turn on and off threat warning and some other selections. Towards the right side, we have the HEMEX control for increasing, turning on and increasing the intensity or the brightness of the HEMEX and for turning the system off. Above that, we have the countermeasures panel for display of chaff and flare quantity and for selection of the mode towards the right bottom. It can be selected to off, standby, manual mode, semi-auto, auto, and the bypass mode. Moving ahead, we have the conventional landing gear for raising and lowering the landing gears, and this yellow button on the right side de-energizes the electrical sequencing and can be used for manual retraction and raising of this landing gear. The landing light, off, and taxi switch is self-explanatory, then followed by a horn silencer, and towards the left we have the stores configuration CAT1 and CAT3. The CAT1 and CAT3 use different sets of flight control system logic with different control authority available as per the stores loaded onto the aircraft. Below this CAT1 and CAT3 switch is the speed brake indicator. If the speed brake is closed, a close will be written. In transit, the zebra lines will be appear. Above the stores configuration switch is the ground jettison enable switch. Once enabled, the selected stores can be jettisoned on ground in case of a high-speed abort. Next, we have brakes channel 1 and channel 2 switches. Both are redundant to each other and have different set of logics for the brake operation. The parking brake position can be used to engage the parking brake. Anti-skid is the normal or the default position, and the system can be turned off by putting the switch to off position. As soon as the switch is moved to off position, the anti-skid caution light will appear onto the warning panel. Emergency stores in jettison position can be used to jettison all stores from the wings in case of any emergency. Then we have the three green lights indicating that the gears are down and locked. The hook switch can be used to raise up and down the hook in case of cable arrestment. Above that, two switches are used for the autopilot control. Again, a tutorial onto the autopilot control will be available in a few days. Then we have the master armament. The top position is for arm position. Then we have the off position and simulate for the available symbology without firing the actual missiles. Above that, we have the laser arm and off in case of laser guided bombs. And then towards right side, we have the ECM light. Whenever the ECM is operation and working properly, this green light will come on. Above that, we have the RF norm, quiet and silent switch. The normal is the default position in which all sensors are working fine. Quiet inhibits some of the transmissions and silent inhibits all of the transmissions from the aircraft to avoid detection by any passive detector. I hope that helped. Stay tuned. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.